Fangirls and fanboys, welcome back to Random Fandom, the show that celebrates everything that's random? No.
Everything that's fandom.
Everything that's fandom and fun and lovely in the world. And this is a very special show for us. In this show, we kind of talking more about what we talked about last show, which was about the gracious side of fandom and what fan people can do when they come together as a community to do things for passion, what they really, really feel passionate about, and make changes in the world. We're going to talk about and with two women who are the managers of ClexaCon.
Directors
Okay.
of ClexaCon.
ClexaCon, which is a convention. Do you want to say?
Sure. I mean,
Oh, this is Chen, by the way.
Hi.
Chen is here.
Oh, we haven't even said that one of the reasons that the show is special is because Shiri and I are actually in the same room.
Same room. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, that haven't happened in like a year. So here we are.
We've never done this side by side.
True. It's very exciting. I'm visiting Israel. Yeah, ClexaCon. The 100 is one of my favorite fandoms. I've been watching this con comes to be as a fan, and later on I started working with them as well. So, in all aspects of it.
And ClexaCon is LGBTQ women con. It's centered around the work of queer women.
Yeah.
Behind the camera, on camera, and the fandom, of course. And it started from a very, you can say, small thing. This one character.
It was quite explosive.
It was quite explosive, but I'm trying to see it as from other people who are not so involved in the fandom, even other fans of other fandoms. Not everyone heard about this, maybe, I don't know. So one thing that happened to one character started a bushfire.
Yeah.
And the fans were so in uproar, and they said, well, we've had enough. How many years are we going to watch? Characters that are
die.
like us, exactly. Just die, because that's the easiest thing for writers to do, because it's cheap drama, because it's kind of convenient to kill off the one gay character that you've allotted this medium.
There's a lot to admire about ClexaCon. I myself, Lexa was probably my favorite character on TV in the last, decade probably.
Wow.
So I can, from a personal point of view, I can definitely say that I experienced that sense of loss. And the outcome was a fanfic that took me about 9 months to write, 2 novel-length parts. So I felt this whole thing very personally, and again, it was fascinating to see people come together. And even before ClexaCon, last year was the first year of the con. It was insanely successful. So this is going to be the second year. Very excited to talk to Danielle and to Holly today. But I would say that even before ClexaCon, fans through the Trevor Project collected something like $150,000, in the name of the character. So even before it formed into that death definitely launched a movement. There's a reason why publications like The Hollywood Reporter, Entertainment Weekly, every showbiz magazine publication in the US wrote about it, because it was weeks and weeks of unending, attention to that cause, and fans doing constant, every day you'll have something new that a fan did. And I think ClexaCon was the cherry on top of that revolution in a way.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing about fandom. It's just a representation of what we care about. Loving a character, it just means that we identify with her or him or it,
Yeah.
And when it's being put down, or you see the writers or the networks or whoever treat the character that you are so invested in such a bad way, so poorly, it makes you feel like they do it to you. And this is not a stupid little thing. It can move mountains, and we can see it right here, right now with this con. It's the second year of the con. It's already huge and it's already spreading to other locations. We'll talk about it in the interview. And so we really wanted to talk to two of the three directors of the con. We spoke to Holly and Danielle, who were very gracious and came to speak to us. Two different locations in the world and one location here for both of us together.
They're like in two different coasts in the US, and we're sitting in Tel Aviv.
All the way here in Israel. What an exciting time to be alive. But before we get to that interview, let's just very quickly, I know we say it every time, but this time for sure, we're not even going to start to speak about sexual harassment of any kind.
Not today.
We'll just do a shortish roundup of like two things.
Yeah, for the most part, I've been here for like 2.5 weeks now, and I've been running constantly, so I had no time to I don't know what's happening in fandom. I have almost nothing to talk about, but I do want to mention Puffs, which I might be wrong about some facts, but I'll try my best. Puffs is an off-Broadway musical, belongs to, the world of Harry Potter, and, the unsung heroes of the House of Hufflepuff. And from what I could gather, they started as a show that was meant for like 8 performances, a few like friends from like an improv group or something, that was something that they just did for fun, and lo and behold, of course, people ran to see the show because Harry Potter is such a famous, such a beloved fandom. So I think now they've been on for like 8 months, something start as 8.
It's kind of a cult phenomenon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where is it?
It's in New York. And now what's happening is by the time you're here, it will probably be, they have a Kickstarter campaign because they want to shoot the show because so many people were like, when can we see it outside of New York? When can we see it outside of New York? So I'm sure that by the time you'll hear this, the campaign will be over. But I think
they're trying to make a concert film.
Yes. They're trying to get $50,000. And when I checked earlier, and there's still 17 days to go, they're like on 27,000. So there's
still a long way to go.
Yeah, but they're more than halfway through, and I have faith in them because people are definitely been hoping for it. So even though, by the time you hear this, it will be over, I still think it's worth knowing about, not just the campaign, but the existence of the thing. And if we're lucky, we should maybe by the end of 2018, we'll have an edited, high quality version available to everybody.
How is it working out with rights and, controls the rights?
I don't know. I feel like
it's not parody.
No, partially,
it's
I think.
Considered a parody.
Yeah, but I think Lin-Manuel Miranda very gladly went to Spamilton, which was like the parody.
And it was him.
Yeah, but J.K. Rowling, that's her too, in a way. You know what I mean? I feel like she's totally psyched about stuff like that. So,
but did she say anything? Did she?
I don't know. That's
approval?
A good question. You know what? I'll research and get back to you.
Ask her.
I'll give her a call.
Yeah, please do. Okay. Next time, be more prepared. Already speak to JK and
unbelievable.
I just have to say that every time you tell me about Puffs, I automatically think it's gonna be about the Powerpuff Girls.
I think about Cheetos because there's
like a stage show about the Powerpuff Girls, which would be amazing.
Can you imagine like the rafters?
Oh,
like a defying gravity mode, like
I know,
flying.
Amazing. I can see it now, and let's write this show.
Sure.
Okay, so we're done with that.
We're doing this. We have all the budget. All right.
I have no news to speak of, but I'll just mention really quickly that Sense8, a beloved show that's been over for like 6 months or something, since it only had 2 seasons. It's a show that's very, very diverse. It's really celebrated for being like so diverse. It's ridiculous. Like you name it, they have it.
Yeah.
What type of person would you like to be represented? It's in the show. It's there. And the amazing thing about this show also is that the creators of this show and writers and main writers and directors are 2 siblings. The Wachowski, they started out as brothers, And during the making of this show, one after the other, they both went through the gender transition, and now they're the Wachowski sisters. They're both trans women.
Do you know, that's my, ignorance. Do you know if they spoke to the influence of the show on their, like, did the show
decision?
Did the show kind of like, working on the show? Because there's also a transgender women character in the show. Were they kind of like, influenced by working on their own creation to do that, or?
I doubt it, because deciding to go through the transition takes a lot of time, and also the preparation physically and mentally. You have to go through a whole process. And one of them, I think it's Lily, went through the transition on the second season of the show.
Really?
So it was already kind of a done deal for them.
Started way before.
Yeah. So she had to stop working on the show for her to go through the transition. So, but of course, being trans women, even before they actually did the transition, they have trans women on their show. They have, well, like we said, they have everything in there.
It's beautiful.
It is very beautiful. And they're very beautiful people. Wherever you look, beautiful people.
I concur.
It's a very cute show. I liked it a lot. I kind of recommend it. It's not very deep. It didn't go all the way with the potential. And unfortunately, it ended. So there's not going to be much
we're not going to see much more.
However, so glad to say that there is going to be, it's not going to end like keeping us in suspense, like we don't know what happened at the end, because there's going to be a movie. And the movie is supposed to tie up loose ends and give everyone, a good kind of closure. And that is being filmed as we speak all over the world, because this show is being filmed everywhere, because every person in the cast kind of lives somewhere else in the world, which is amazing. So if you go to their Twitter account or their Facebook or whatever, you can see they started releasing during December. They started releasing like little videos of the cast, playing around or talking to fans, and it's so cute. And so, I don't know, it filled my heart with joy. And it's not even like a huge fandom of mine.
Yeah.
But I really like this show despite all its flaws, and the cast is so cute. And it's like this, there's a point in time for shows where, if they're going well, where the cast love each other so much, they're like at the height of their love affair with the show and themselves. And if they don't, just continue to do it like again and again, like one more season, to the point that they kind of lose it. It's a beautiful time in like the life of the show. They
got canceled during the honeymoon stage.
Exactly.
Basically.
It's like a Firefly thing. Firefly, they were so in love with what happened with each other and what's going on and with the show and the premise, and then it ended. Yeah. And they kind of are stuck in that place. Forever. With us forever.
It's like it's very Shakespearean when you think about
completely. So just to wrap up the Sense8 thing, if you are a Sense8 person, it's called Sense8, I guess.
Yeah. with the digit.
With it, No, Sense8 is the show. If you are a part of the fandom, you're a Sensei. Like the people in the show. Never mind.
Gotcha. I would say that it's a huge bummer, because when something like this happens, it's usually like, oh, maybe Netflix will save it.
I know.
And now it's a Netflix show.
Like we said before, we keep saying, maybe Netflix will save it. Maybe Netflix will save
it. Maybe Hulu will save it. Home to Handmaid's Tale and The Path.
Hopefully.
Shameful plug.
Yeah.
Premiering January 17th.
But if you plug something, you have to say what you're plugging and why. You have to say, this is the show that I am on.
I didn't say that, but you did. So it has been said. This is the show Shiri is on.
No, okay. One of us in this room.
50% of the people in this room
is an actress on the show The Path. It is not me, and that's all I can tell you. So we encourage you to watch it.
Indeed.
What was I saying?
Sometime
during 2018, in the beginning of it, this closure of the show will come up and will be great, I hope. And it's really exciting over there on the accounts,
On the Twitters.
on the Twitters. And that's it. That's all the fandom I can give you.
Yes.
Oh, one more thing I have to say.
Sure, of course. Yes.
It's not really a fandom, but it's Will and Grace. Okay.
Okay.
I love Will and Grace, the show.
What do you mean it's not really a fandom of yours?
I'm not
or
like in a fandom. I'm not.
Okay.
This is
there is a fandom.
This is a show about fandoms. I'm not really in that fandom. I don't have like a community of Will and Gracers or whatever they call themselves. I watch it with my sister and my friend, and we love it. We quote it. We laugh our asses from it. And this year, after 10 years of being off the air, they had a new season, and that season is like the best of everything that show had to offer. It's so good. We enjoy it so much. They have so many callbacks to the past.
It's so rare
that actually work.
Yeah,
and it's actually good, and it's actually even better than it was, because I think they know it's one thing that it has to be great. They can't faff about like they did. I don't know, and they're just and again, this is a show that is so in love with itself, and they love each other so much. They're so happy to be back. So
they're like the couple who broke up but were meant for each other, then came back, like, you know.
Yeah,
like,
they broke up,
got back together
on good terms.
Yeah,
and they always said, but it didn't work out. Our time is over.
If you don't get married by the time we're like 40, let's get married. Let's like marry each other.
Yeah, and I guess that's what they're doing. Yeah. So it's just wonderful, and I recommend it. That's it.
Hooray!
So that was the entire thing.
Yes.
Okay, so on with the interview.
On with the show. Hello. So today we're actually trying something pretty ambitious. We have two guests, and we're in 3 different time zones. So this took a bit of effort, but here we are. We have today Holly and Danielle, who are 2 out of the 3 ClexaCon directors. Hi, guys.
Hey.
Hey, how are you?
Good, thank you. I want to say about ClexaCon that we actually started touching upon good things and bad things in fandoms, and one of our recent shows was about activism in fandom, and ClexaCon for me was always the thing that could happen if fandom kind of like bands together to create something good. So this is very much why we wanted to talk to you guys. Shiri, do you want to say anything, ask anything?
I'm going to play the part of the person who is outside of fandom. Could you just very generally give us a few words about what is ClexaCon, what is the fandom, what does it stand for, just so people know?
Sure. ClexaCon is a convention and festival for LGBTQ women and allies from around the world. It started as a way to bring fans together to do something positive after a pretty traumatic experience with a TV show. And it's kind of morphed into this 5-day-long festival, bringing people together to meet in person and create community and talk about representation in TV, film, comics, web series, and everything else we can think of.
Now that sounds pretty huge.
It is huge.
So can you talk about how this all happened?
And like, what was the moment that sort of, because, fandom is all about passion. And the con is very much about taking the passion and turning it into something so much bigger, like almost like not physical, but some sort of representation of that passion in the real world. So tell us a bit about that.
After if you know the show, after the main character, who she was almost like the Wonder Woman of television, to me anyway, when she was killed off, there was this, like Danielle said, it was traumatic for a lot of people. And we all met on Twitter, funnily enough. And I'm not sure I can speak for Danielle, but for me anyway, leading up to the death of Lexa on the show, there were so many people that were they found themselves in her. They found, someone they could look up to. And she was very inspiring for a lot of people. And when she was killed off and the way she was, it became this I mean, unlike any other TV character I've ever seen, the response was, people were writing about her death and her storyline from Australia to China to, Variety, all of the major news outlets. It was on NBC News Out. It was something different. And I don't know if it was the way she was written. I don't know if it was just the boldness and the positive representation of her character that did it. But when she was killed off, when that happened, something changed. And it changed in a way where we just said, this is not okay. And I'm speaking for myself now. And I said, well, let's do something. And ClexaCon, it was the original notion of having an event like this was supposed to be very small, very informal, very intimate. And it was realized very soon after we announced that people cared, and they cared to the point where they would come from all over the world. So it came, that's where it started, and then it grew. And together, the three of us with an amazing team, we've been able to turn it into something that other fandoms are embracing. I could probably speak on this for hours, but that's the general gist of.
Okay.
So when you say other fandoms have been like sort of, taking example, do you have an example?
Just that, ClexaCon, Clexa is the portmanteau of Clark and Lexa. So a lot of people see the word and they're like, oh, this is for Clark and Lexa fans. But what we found, and I think Danielle can speak to this as well, is when there's such little representation for the queer community online, if you watch The 100, you're most likely have watched Lost Girl or South of Nowhere or any of the other shows that portray queer characters, queer female characters. So, when this was announced, we did have people come that weren't necessarily Clexa fans or 100 fans. People from the 100 Earp fandom, they got on board and they showed up because they wanted this type of event and they wanted to kind of partake in the various fandoms. I know I've personally talked to a lot of people that didn't know what the 100 was. They were 100 Earp fans and they came and they've learned from each other about all of these shows and web series, and just there's so much out there now. A lot of people didn't have any knowledge of it, and ClexaCon kind of changed that for them.
Was it intended from the beginning to be a fandom thing for your specific fandom, or was it an open invitation, whatever your fandom, if these issues are close to your heart, come one, come all?
Well, the very first original idea was to do something around the fandom for the 100, because the issues around that show were so fresh and people were hurting so much, and we wanted to do something positive to bring fans of that show together. But as the weeks went by and more queer female characters were killed off, one a week, two a week sometimes, it became very obvious to us that we really wanted to do something that was more than just about one fandom. So the idea originally was around the 100 and Clexa fans, but it very quickly grew to be something about fans of all queer television and all queer women who are looking for representation in television and film. It very quickly went from one fandom to all fandoms.
Okay, we'll talk more about this in a minute, but I just wanted to ask you guys, so we get to know you a little bit more. Could you tell us a little bit just about you? Where are you coming to this from? What do you do? Other fandoms?
That's all you, Holly.
Well, I am in my mid-30s, I will say, and so the representation that I had growing up was slim to none. And what representation was there was not good representation. I never watched Buffy. Don't hate me.
We'll never hate you.
So, and what was there wasn't positive. All my children had Bianca and Maggie back in the day. We were called BAM fans, I guess. I didn't watch Buffy, but I knew about it. I watched the Ellen show. I saw her coming out when I was in high school. So I didn't have anything. And as I was growing older, I was like, well, I'm never going to have anything, so why care about it? And then I, started watching The 100. I actually love post-apocalyptic movies and TV shows. It's my favorite genre. And I was like, oh, let me check this show out on Netflix. And I saw it and I fell in love with it. And literally, probably I would say 3 weeks after I caught up, Lexa was killed. And I guess that was like, all right, I'm in my mid-30s now. I'm watching this show. I've devoted a lot of time to this show. I'm invested in this character. And what happens, the same thing that happened when I was a teenager 20 years ago, the lead gets killed off. So, I have never been, I would say, very devoted in fandom, but when I was growing up, we didn't have Twitter, we didn't have social media like we do now, so it was a lot easier to get to know the fans of the show through those mediums. I didn't have it when I was growing up, so I would say that I have evolved into a little bit of a shipper, I guess you would call it. That term was not around when I was younger, but I do tend to stand away from it a little bit, just because I know the investment kind of, if you invest too much of yourself into it, you're going to be let down. And that's what we want to change. We want the positive stuff. We want something different.
Oh, that's amazing.
I love that thought. That was a very good last sentence.
Oh. Mm-hmm. You guys are from different places, right?
Yeah, I live in Las Vegas currently. I grew up in Australia, and I spent most of my life living in New York.
Whoa. Okay.
Fun times.
Nice spread. So how does it feel to do this amazing, huge project together when you're in different parts of the world?
It can be a little frustrating, but it's also very rewarding. We get to work with people from all over the world. Our volunteer team has people from several different countries, and we work online mostly. So whenever we do get to come together, it's really a lot of fun.
It does have its challenges. Sometimes when I'm on the East Coast and Danielle and Ashley are in Vegas, it would be like, we need to be together so we can, get this stuff done. But it tends to work during convention season because we do go to the different conventions and talk to people. So I kind of head up the East Coast portions of that, and they do a lot of stuff on the West Coast. So it does work out. So some aspects of it are easier to deal with since we're kind of separated.
We also have a big crew in the San Francisco area, people in LA, Boston, around the country a little bit. We have some people in England. So it's all over the place.
It's very impressive. In a very short time, it seems that it's like the little fandom that could.
Absolutely.
Not that it's a very little fandom, but in comparison to what I know of things of that magnitude in the past, the fandoms were huge compared to that. So that's really impressive.
So even more so, we know that in terms of expansion, not only is ClexaCon has been super successful in its very first year, it's also expanding to the UK. Do you guys want to tell us a bit about that? What can we expect? When can we expect it?
Yeah, we're really excited to be doing an event in the UK. It's going to be next November, so November 2nd to 4th in London. We'll have lots more information to announce about that in the new year, so keep your eyes peeled on our social media accounts for guest announcements and updates and things like that.
Do you have like a format difference between the one in Vegas and the one in the UK? Something that you're like, this would be more this sort of an event, this would be more this kind of an event?
Well, we're thinking about the London event as more of a pop-up ClexaCon. So it'll be very similar in the sense of having celebrity guests, actresses, filmmakers, producers, and we'll be doing a lot of panels and workshops. But it's going to be a little bit smaller than the Las Vegas event. So the Las Vegas event is kind of our flagship, I guess. And London will just take that and make it on a smaller, more intimate scale.
Is this something you're hoping to do in other locations as well at some point?
Yeah, we'd love to do pop-up ClexaCons around the world. That would be really awesome. And we know that there are fans all over the world, and there are LGBTQ women all over the world looking for representation. And we get asked to do events in Brazil, in Australia, in Germany, in France, in Canada. We get asked to do events everywhere all the time. I was going to say, hopefully we'll be able to actually do all of those one day.
Yeah, I'm imagining like a huge villain map, and there's like little dots of the areas that you took over. And it's just going to be like little ClexaCon logos everywhere.
That would be amazing. World domination.
Well, the sky is the limit when the fandom is really, passionate and
Absolutely.
and into it. And this is actually more than fandom. Again, I keep saying fandom, but it seems to me that this con is gone beyond that. It represents something that's much larger than that. The needs of this community at large, representation in TV everywhere, in all sorts of media, and not just in front of the camera, behind the camera. And so maybe, I guess that's the part of the appeal.
That's very true, because with ClexaCon, if you guys want to talk a bit about, the guests, I know that there are some guests that are not necessarily actors. There are a lot of creatives coming, and I know the con itself, always trying to learn and evolve, maybe have more women of color every year.
Yeah, in terms of adapting to the community, that's definitely something we're always looking for feedback. We want to represent we want to represent as many different groups within our community as possible. So this year we have several panels related to queer women of color. We have panels around different disabilities, panels from queer women from around the world talking about issues that are relevant to them and representation in their parts of the world. Generally, the community that we have seen come up around ClexaCon is very passionate and very dedicated, because representation for our community is so lacking, and it has been so lacking for so long, that when we do see something, we gravitate to it. A lot of us do anyway. So we have very passionate, dedicated fans from around the world who really care about these issues and really want to be involved. So we have people coming to the event from all over the world. We had, I think, people from 43 countries at our first event this past March. We'll probably have people from around that many countries again next year. So it's really amazing to see that this is something that really does bring us together wherever we are in the world.
Holly, do you want to add to that?
The only thing that I would add, and I usually mention this when, we usually mention this when we talk, but, a lot of fans, people in the fandom, people in other fandoms, people that want that representation, they showed up for our event in our first year. They took a chance on it. And I just wanted to throw in here somewhere, and I guess this is a good spot, that, without people, having faith in what we were doing and what we tried to accomplish and what we did accomplish this past year and in future years, we really wouldn't have had the event that we did without our volunteers, without the staff, of course, but without the people that actually showed up because they needed it so badly. When Danielle was saying, we had people come from South Africa and Israel and a lot of places that have no representation. So that's really all I would want to add to that, is that without the support and loyalty of the people that believe in what we're doing, it wouldn't be the event that it is.
I'd also like to add really quickly, if I can, just that we have such an amazing team of volunteers.
Yes,
we could not do this without all of the help we get from people who volunteer their time year round, and all the people who volunteer their time at the convention to make sure things run smoothly. We're going to have so many people helping out at the convention this year, which is really fantastic. It really lets us do a lot more and helps us make the best experience possible for everybody who is coming from all over the world.
And I think the con is very much trying to give back to these people. And, obviously it's not possible to, do it with everyone. But I know part of the idea behind the scholarship was to be able to bring some people that maybe otherwise would not have been able to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. We know that conventions can be expensive and traveling for an event can be expensive. And we'd love to be able to help everybody, but we can't do that. So what we did was started a scholarship fund, which we donated to as organizers and as the convention. And also we had people donating to from around the world. It was really amazing to see people paying it forward, and even people who aren't able to come putting some money into the fund for other people to help somebody else attend. So we've been able to help over 100 people with everything from flights and hotels to tickets. So we're really excited to be able to offer that.
Yeah, if that's not community spirit, I don't know what is.
Yeah, that's really beautiful, I have to say.
Shiri, as a bystander, is more objective than all of us, but
I've been involved in cons, and I've been involved in creating the Israeli fan community way back in the day for Joss Whedon works very small time compared to what you're doing, but I know the struggles and all the challenges, and a lot of time it seems like the people we are making this for, a lot of people are here and they'll do anything with you, whatever it takes, and a lot of them are just kind of consumers and they're expecting things to happen for them. Do you have that feeling? So I don't know. I felt very frustrated about that when I was doing this on a very small scale compared to what you're doing.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most amazing things about our community is that we do care so much about each other and about giving back. So it's really incredible to see that. And we definitely want to continue to make the convention as accessible as possible. We get a lot of messages from people who are just so excited to have an event like this. They're either not out or they're newly out and they don't know queer people. So they're really excited that we've created this space where they can come and be themselves and be their true, authentic selves. And that's really exciting for us to be able to create a space that not only is about fandom and TV and representation, but is also just about a safe space for us to come and be ourselves with each other.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's actually very moving, I think. I don't know. I keep saying it's amazing, but I'm truly very impressed with how something that comes out of, a lot of people that can see us from the outside, they are not part of fandoms, that are not like TV people or geeks or whatever you want to call it. They don't understand how this could have come about. Why are everyone so up in arms about like a TV character? What does it matter if she died or didn't die, or how she died, or how many died? But we understand how this passion can grow into something that's so beyond that particular fandom, that particular ship or character. But do you guys, that's just me talking, but do you guys get that sort of reaction? Like, how do people who are outsiders, what do they think about you doing all this? Because I imagine you guys have lives of your own. You have, what you do in your day to day. Not everyone gets it.
Honestly, we don't get a lot of feedback from people who don't get it or who aren't involved. The feedback we get is very positive from members of the community or from allies who are supportive. So we've been pretty lucky, I guess, in that sense. People do seem to get it.
Do you feel any change within the fandom in those 2 years? Do you feel like there's still the same sort of passion and the character and the ship that we saw 2 years ago? Because at this point, things fade, things become more symbolic maybe. I'm interested in your take on that.
I would say that there are still a very large, I would say a very vocal portion of the fan base from that show that are still reeling, that are still kind of emotionally invested and tied to the character and what it could have been. I do think, right after it happened, I think there were 42 straight days of top 10 trending on Twitter. I don't think it's fading out. I would say the emotional attachment to that ship and to that character is not necessarily dwindling, but they're taking from what happened to enact change on in other places. So at ClexaCon, when they see a new character couple, on TV become canon, before anything can happen to them, they are remembering what happened to Lexa, and they are being very vocal towards the producers, the writers, the cast, and saying, do not do this, make sure you do this right. And I've seen, people personally talking about, well, if they do this to that character, then I'm done. So I would say that they still have a lot of respect and love for the Clexa ship that was, but they've learned and they are, I guess, channeling their fandom in different ways to make sure it doesn't happen again.
I think one of the most amazing things to see coming out of this too is that the raw emotion might have faded, but people haven't forgotten. And one of the things that we've learned as a community is that we do have a voice, and when we speak together, we can make change. So that's why we're seeing people standing up and speaking back to creators, just saying, treat us better, treat those characters better, give us real storylines. And we're seeing that people are actually listening to that. And we have shows, for example, like Winona Earp, where the showrunner, Emily Andrus, interacts with fans and listens to fans. And we have the cast trying to understand the issues around LGBTQ representation and really working hard to do their characters justice and give us good representation. So I think that that's been a really great thing to see come out of it.
I, as a fan, has been feeling more showrunners being at least more educated on the issues. The crews and creatives of shows today are way more involved in like fan culture because they see it has complete direct impact on, you know, the success of their show. So as organizers, I'm curious, is there a specific thing or a moment that either of you are especially proud of?
Honestly, I think there have been a lot of like chill moments, I guess, you know, where we see people, whether online or at the convention, finally feel like they can be themselves and not have to hide who they are. But well, we take turns going to conventions to spread the word for ClexaCon, to talk to creators and artists and other fans. And I was recently, this past June, I was at FlameCon, which is a LGBT convention in New York City. But I had, and she didn't know who I was. She just saw our table, and there was an artist there. And she came and gave me a print, and it was for all of us. I just happened to have it. She gave me a print she had done of Root and Shaw from Person of Interest, and she asked if she could give me a hug, and she said, "You guys have changed my life," and she started crying, and I gave her a hug. And that was, wow. You know, that was, I guess, the first time that, well, not the first time, but one of the times that stick out to me, because, you know, she just had this vulnerableness about her, and she just wanted to say thank you to all of us. And I happened to be the one that was there, but it touched me, and I might have teared up a little bit after she left, but, you know, in a good way, because if all of us can have that experience, seeing what this is doing for people in the world and the community, you know, I really think that it's just amazing to see. And don't know, Danielle, if you have an experience, but that's one of the ones that stick out to me.
I think there are so many things that I'm proud of us having accomplished and achieved. I think one of the things that I see really regularly that makes me very happy, though, is just like watching interactions of people online and seeing how many people made friendships at the convention last year, how many people are coming back to see the people that they met last year because they formed such strong, amazing friendships. And I think that that's something that I think is just fantastic. And I hope that we will always be able to be a place where people can come by themselves even and meet people and walk away with lifelong friends.
I think you guys are going to make Shiri cry. I was looking at her when Ali was speaking about the hug, and I was like,
Yeah, the hug really killed me. Yeah, that really moves me. What can I say?
Danielle is right, though. I mean, there's one, you know, you can have one experience, but the things that we see on a day-to-day basis online and in person at the events are, I mean, there are hundreds of them, and it definitely speaks to what ClexaCon has been able to do.
Yeah, it is very inspiring and wonderful to hear. Holly, you said that this is pretty much your big fandom, that before that you didn't identify with anything to that extent.
Yeah, when I say I didn't identify, I didn't get invested in the. I mean, I did get invested in the storyline of Lexa, but also invested with the people that were affected by her death. And before that, I had not, just because I was used to being let down, you know, with American television growing up. If there was someone queer, they were killed, or they were, you know, portrayed in a negative light. So.
Before you got into ClexaCon, did you interact inside the fandom in other ways? Fan fiction? I don't know.
That's for either of you. I don't know. Yeah. Danielle, do you want to go first?
I've never really been that involved in fandom culture. I've definitely had shows that I've watched and been a little bit obsessed with, but never really in a way interacting with other fans. I think that The 100 and Clexa really changed that for me. And I think also the way that social media is really such an integral part of our lives now really helps us connect with fans in a way that we didn't have maybe when I was younger.
Yeah, it certainly makes it easier. That's true.
Social media being such a big part of the way we communicate and make friends and talk about things in fandom. Before that, I mean, I will say that maybe when I was younger, in my early 20s, I might have written some fan fiction, some things here and there. They weren't great, but, just things that I wanted to see. This was in my early 20s, so a long time ago. But I've never, I would say not until this did I ever get as invested as I have since The 100.
For both of you, it sounds like you took the right fandom to kind of like go all in, It's like you haven't been as invested, or like as in you haven't taken an active part in fandom culture before, and all of a sudden you find yourself like the directors of a huge... It's like, it's like love when you find the one, I guess.
It is like love.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that I absolutely loved and still love the character of Lexa. I think I talked about this earlier. She, for me, was the equivalent of Xena or Wonder Woman, someone that I wish I had when I was growing up. She was amazing. And what she was able to do for me, in a season and a half was great. But Danielle mentioned earlier, her death was in the middle of what was called there's a magazine, I think it was Variety or maybe Cosmopolitan. I don't know. They called it the Spring Slaughter, and it was like 10 people,
Wow.
10 people had 10 queer women had been killed off prior to her. I don't quote me on that number. It might have been, but after that, I mean, the Vampire Diaries had like a double murder of the 2 queer women there. And then what is that one show? I can't remember the name, but there was a murder-suicide. But like there were 16 queer women that died with over like a 6 or 7 week span. And it was like having Lexa be such an amazing character for me, having that happen in the middle of it was kind of like the turning point where, okay, let's take this, a step farther. This has got to stop. And then, this past year, Sense8 was canceled, and, there's just so much that the fandom can do now, whether you're in the Person of Interest fandom or Sense8 or the L Word or the 100, it doesn't matter. But we couldn't do then what we can do now.
All right, guys, well, let me ask you one last question. Let's assume someone who've never heard about ClexaCon is listening to this. Is there like one single sentence, not a pitch, but, is there something you want to say to people who have not heard about the con at all and maybe considering whether coming or not?
That is all Danielle.
Oh, give me the hard ones. One sentence.
You can.
It can be like 2, yeah.
I'd say if you're looking for a community of LGBTQ women, looking for a safe, fun space, looking to find out the best in LGBTQ representation on the big and the little screen, want to meet content creators, actresses, ClexaCon is the place for you to be.
Yeah, I will attest to that. Guys, if you're listening to this, go to ClexaCon.com. The lineup is amazing, very varied. And if you can make it, you definitely should. Guys, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Pleasure. It was lovely talking to you both, and good luck with everything. I won't be able to be there,
Aww.
but I'll
One of these days,
send by proxy.
I won't be able to be there either.
You won't be
It's
either.
in Vegas. It's so hard.
We'll be there. in
We'll
our
see. We'll
hearts.
see.
Okay, so thank you, Holly, and thank you, Danielle. We appreciate your time so much. I think it's fascinating. The whole ClexaCon thing just took me by surprise. I don't think I really understood the magnitude of it, and even how important it is for young people to have this, this type of con. Never had this kind of thing. That's
very happy
really
to be a part of. I mean, I can talk
weird
about
to
that
think
fandom
that-
for ages.
Yeah, I know.
But it was my fun to kind of like not tell you much and just lean back and see your face lit up when you hear the stories.
Well, I promise you that we will have a show that's about this one big fandom of yours, and I'll ask you all the questions and you can give me all your answers.
Sounds great.
Because that's what random fandom is all about.
It's all about.
And guys, if you think of something that we should have talked about in our non-existing roundup because it happened and it's in your fandom and you're saying, what? How come they didn't talk about that obvious thing that happened?
Amateurs.
Yeah, we can't know all the fandoms out there. We can't know everything that happened, especially when Chen is really busy.
Yeah.
So anyway, if you think that we should have talked about something that we didn't, about this, about anything that we spoke of in these shows, you are more than welcome to leave us messages. We are everywhere.
Yes, find us everywhere, especially if you go on Tumblr, Random Fandom Pod. You can find on our About page all the links to all the places and all the stuff.
Yeah. So that's it.
Goodbye.
Bye.